Welcome to Women in Sports, a new Asian Golf Industry Federation initiative that really shines the spotlight on females in the sporting world. Over the coming months, we'll be interviewing a broad spectrum of women who've stamped an indelible mark on sports as competitors, leaders, pioneers, and role models. We'll be finding out what drives them, what motivates them, and who are the people who've positively influenced their careers, and what advice they'd pass on to those who would like to follow in their footsteps. To tee off this series, it's fitting that our first subject is an inspirational individual who has gained international acclaim for breaking down barriers and blazing a trail for women in golf. The first woman ever to be elected to serve as the officer of the PGA of America, mother of two, Suzy Whaley, has recently completed her historic 2-year term as the PGA of America's first female president. During her tenure, she spearheaded the Golf Emergency Relief Fund, which offered financial help to workers affected by COVID-19. She also helped craft the Back to Golf protocols that kept courses running safely. A 1989 graduate of the University of North Carolina, Suzy has many other notable claims to fame, including qualifying and participating in the 2003 Greater Hartford Open, becoming the first woman since 1945 to qualify for the PGA Tour events. A dual member of the PGA of America and LPGA Teaching and Club Professional Division, Suzy was the LPGA Tour member in 1990 and 1993. Among other things, she's been a 5-time PGA Junior League Championship Finals coach who's instructed more than 300 children to collegiate golf, worked as an LPGA golf commentator for ESPN, before setting up her own instruction and coaching business, Suzy Whaley Golf. Suzy, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. I just thought we could perhaps start the ball rolling by you telling us a little bit about how your golf journey began.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a treat to be your first, and congratulations on this wonderful program you're offering. I can't wait to tune in to the next episodes. But my golf journey began in Syracuse, New York, which is a very cold town. So mostly we played golf just in the summer months from about June till really the beginning of September, mid-September. But my mother was the avid athlete in my family. She was a huge golf fan, loved golf, played it as much as she possibly could, and was really looking for a pal. I have an older sister who didn't take up the game till later, but my mom found very early on that I was a great pal because I'd go anytime she asked. And thankfully, she taught me how to play the game, and then was smart enough to introduce me to a PGA professional when she felt she couldn't help me anymore, who became my mentor, my coach, my dear friend, my employer, all the way through high school, who I still speak to all the time now. So just lucky that I started the game. I was a 4-sport athlete growing up, but golf stuck.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had a really strong female leader in your mother before you even met coaches. What do you find that there's more females coming into the industry now that are really taking on that role?
Yeah, we do, and I hope many, many more to come. I think it's been a slow process. When I first, my mother, I just had this incredible mom, and a great dad too, but my mom just didn't put up any barriers for us. We didn't see ourselves as a gender that had to do something different because of our gender. It was, if we wanted to do something, we had to take it on, and knowing it was a challenge, we had to prepare and get ready, and we understood clearly. And early on, we weren't always going to get what we wanted, even if we really tried really hard. And I love that. I love that about my mom. She was a teacher. She was a professor for her profession. And I think that certainly was something that I was fortunate to be around. It was always for me a mindset of getting there, of not yet, of just, give it a little more and see if you can get there. And that always was the great challenge of anything we took on. It wasn't about failing. It wasn't about making a mistake. It was about what was that next step that we could do to get where we needed to be. And I find that that's the sense in this younger generation. This younger generation is challenging the status quo. And I'm thrilled to see that. Golf has been a very traditional sport. It's a very male-centric sport since I've been involved in it. But as I mentioned, I didn't grow up concerned about that. I knew if I wanted to pursue something, I was going to do it. But I can tell you that it has its challenges along the way. And as we try to recruit women into the business, we want to make sure there's opportunity there for them. We want to make sure there's challenge for them. We want to make sure there's joy and purpose in what they're trying to accomplish. And I'm so inspired by the young women that are coming behind me that are just pushing the envelope in every space in the golf world. Not that they're just being invited, but they're making a real difference in not only the business of the game, but the enjoyment of the game around the world. And that's really fun to see.
Absolutely. You touched on there about some of the challenges that women face in the sports world. What's a couple of the challenges that you've seen, especially in your position at the PGA? I'm sure you've had more visibility to that, obviously through your career. So what would be the few challenges that you really see that women have to overcome at the moment?
No, I mean, we look at it, or, me for sure looks at it in certain pillars. We certainly want more women in the workforce. We're an $85 billion industry. And at the PGA of America, we're only close to 5% female as a membership. So we want to elevate that number. Because when people can see somebody that looks like them when they walk into a golf facility, or when they're trying to purchase equipment, or when they're looking through a digital marketing advertisement and they see someone who looks like them in that advertisement, it's much easier to join that particular thing you want to be a part of than when you see nobody that looks like you. And I think that's still a challenge for the golf industry. I think oftentimes it's an unconscious bias, but it's there and it needs to change. We need more women seeing themselves in head golf professional roles and director of instruction roles and general manager roles. We need more women as leaders at manufacturing companies. We need more women as leaders in association levels, in governance, because it's important to have that different perspective in the room. And it's also good for business. And so as we move forward, those challenges, as we try to overcome those together and as a group, we'll do it more unified around the world than we'll do as separate entities. Today, it's equal pay day. And, I'm sure everybody's seen that everywhere in social media. And as we look to that as our guidepost for sports and the sports industry, as we look to equality and equity, we have a ways to go in sports. And I'm thankful that golf has been talking about this for years. But now we have some opportunity to do something about it, which I'm excited about.
Good. You touched on there before as well about mentoring. You had a great PGA coach who was your mentor. And I know for me personally, I've got a fabulous mentor, which is one of my previous female leaders. What do you think mentors bring to individuals, and how does that help them grow?
I think they're so incredibly important. When I first joined the PGA of America, I became a Class A member in 2001. I had been a member of the LPGA teaching and club professional division first. I had very young children at the time, and at the time, I wasn't qualified as far as how many hours I was working to become a PGA member. So I became an LPGA member first, and then the PGA of America changed that, and I was able to join in 2001. And when I joined the PGA of America, I'm married to a PGA professional as well. So of course, he's always been an incredible guidepost for me and somebody to bounce ideas off of. But I was so thankful that I was playing in events, in tournaments, that I took the opportunity to play in tournaments, even when my game wasn't at its sharpest, because I ended up meeting these incredible leaders and businessmen and women within the industry that were so willing to help me, that were willing to take my phone call, that when I took my first head professional job, I could call them and ask, how in the world do I have 5 high schools playing at the same time? How am I going to manage this process? And I found that those people I met through tournaments became these incredible mentors for me. and lifelong mentors. I also have mentors outside of the sports industry, which I find incredibly helpful for me in business. I've met, Asuka Nakahara, who's a professor at Wharton University, at the University of Pennsylvania. Chris Liddell, who's an independent director on our PGA of America board, Andrea Smith, who works for the Bank of America, Lori Lee, who works for AT&T, all of whom I've met through my governance process at the PGA of America, have been instrumental in helping me shape my business and helping me shape business decisions and just being a sounding board over issues that we faced at the PGA of America. So mentors to me have just been an incredible, they've been a gift. And then Renee Powell is probably somebody that I would tell you has been a real inspiration to me. Renee, a former LPGA Tour player, a woman who has accolades that are too lengthy to list as far as the golf industry is concerned. But she's always been my guidepost, always been my truth teller. When I've asked questions about inclusion, when I've asked questions about the business and women in the game, when I've talked through challenges with her, the challenges I faced always seemed very small in comparison to the challenges that Renee faced in her career. And she really evened me out and leveled me out, always ensuring that I wasn't thinking about something from a personal aspect, but instead looking at it from its entirety. And that's what mentors have helped me do. They take away that I factor of how it's actually impacting the way you feel, and instead showcasing to you what is really the objective and what is the task at hand and what are the metrics you're looking at, and really helping you look at it from a holistic view versus a personal view. I also think sponsors are incredibly important, which I find very different than mentors. Yeah. And sponsors are somebody who speak up for you, who promote you amongst peers, who advocate for you, whether it be at your place of business or whether it be in your community, whether it be within your faith, whatever it might be, where you're looking to have somebody really speak well of you, and you've earned their respect to do that. And I think both are critical as you have a journey through any career that you choose to have.
Yeah, and it's really good you touched on honesty there with mentors, and I know a couple I've got are very honest, and if you're heading in the wrong direction, they certainly bring you back, and that's really good. And what would be the best bit of advice you've had from mentors or a mentor that's really changed either the direction of your career or maybe made you sit up and think, okay, this is what I need to do, or this is what I need to change?
I found that most of my mentors don't make decisions for me. I think as you want to reach out to a mentor, you really want them to answer the question for you. You really want them to tell you what to do. And I found my best mentors don't do that. They just ask incredible questions. And those incredible questions, maybe you've asked yourself those questions, maybe you haven't. And if you haven't, it's this opportunity to rethink and reshape, whether it's a philosophy or an argument or a decision. It really helps you look at both sides. It helps you put your feet in somebody else's position. It helps you understand the opposite perspective. And that's what mentors have done for me, is whether they agreed with me or not, they always give you the opposite, or mine do, the opposite side. And then you have to think and navigate through, well, why would that person think that way when I'm so clearly saying what I want to do is right, right? And then you really have to balance that. And then once you really sit with that for a little while, you realize when you can see somebody else's point of view, even if it's vastly different from your own, what happens is the final decision always gets better, because you take into consideration the voices at the table beyond your own. You come up with a much better solution to whatever task you're trying to accomplish. And for me, that's what mentors really have taught me, is that when you're making decisions, really clearly sit in the person who is the opposing viewpoint of your own, and try to understand where that's coming from, try to understand why they are so adamant about their place and why you're so adamant about yours. And then find that ground that makes sense on the in-between. And I've often found it's always raised the entire room, and it's always been a better decision.
Yeah. So Obviously, though that's the advice that mentors are giving you, and I am assuming that you currently mentor other women to give back. What's the best bit of leadership advice you would give to women coming through the ranks and really trying to make a name for themselves in the sports industry?
So the women that I mentor or my mentees, really what I try to share with them, I try to emulate my favorite mentors. I try not to answer their questions. I try to make them think through their questions. I try to make them think through their career and their goals and their objectives. I try to make them realize very clearly that you can't be great at everything all day, that you have to prioritize. And, I think it's really hard in today's environment to work full time, to have a family, to have a dual working household, to manage a pandemic, to manage golf. We are exploding here in the States, so our work weeks are doubly as long. So it's difficult to manage that, and I try to help them understand that that's okay. That you just have to have priorities. You have to be where your feet are in the moment you're in it. So if you're a coach and you're teaching, the person in front of you is your key right then and there. If you're with your family, you should be with your family, where you're really focused 100% on them in the moment you're with them. If you're in your workplace at a meeting or trying to navigate something within your business, that should be your primary focus in that moment in time. Of course, unless something comes up that draws you away from that, as far as family is concerned. But that's what I try to share, because I find that women that I'm currently coaching and being a mentor for are extremely hard on themselves, and that they are also lacking confidence in their body of work. And I find that when the males that I mentor apply for a position, this is just an example of a job description, they really only feel compelled to have 4 or 5 out of the 10 items on that sheet to apply.
Yeah.
And when I speak to the women that I am a mentor for, I'll ask why they chose not to apply, and they'll say, "Well, I only had 9 of the 10." And I think we really have to take a hard look at that and realize that we're smart. We'll learn. We'll find people to support those things that we don't currently have or aren't great at, but you'll figure it out and you'll get it done. And we're losing jobs, in my opinion, because of that, because we're just not taking on that risk. We're not taking that leap. And we're a little lacking in thinking we need it all to get that next big promotion. I'm here to tell you, you don't. You need to be prepared. You need to work incredibly hard. You need to surround yourself with people. I always try to surround myself with people that are way smarter than I am. And I ask them for help, and everybody's capable of that. And, don't have imposter syndrome. You've worked incredibly hard to be where you are. Have confidence in that and build on your work experience, be a consummate learner. Take as many courses and classes in areas you find that you have a lack of confidence in. And then talk to people who can help you get through that, so that next time that job opportunity comes along, you run for it and you get that resume in there, even if only 5 of the criteria you feel strongly about. I think it's extremely important for women in our sport to start to do that.
I think that's such incredible advice, Suzy. I completely agree. You touched on just a moment ago about family, and I know you've got 2 children. I'm just wondering, when we talk about having it all, how did you manage, with such we heard during the intro, how much you have going on and how much you've achieved, how did you manage that balance when you had children?
Not great. I think we have to be honest about this, right? And I've had so many candid conversations about this. For me, when I played, as an example, when I played in the PGA Tour event, I had my first head golf professional job at a public golf course. My husband was the general manager at the facility where the actual GHO was going to be played that I had qualified for. So both of us working as golf professionals, as most people on the call understand, those types of hours. We had 2 very young daughters at the time. They were 6 and 8, one soon to be 9. And here I was going to try to compete against the best male golfers in the world in front of 40 million people. So you think about how you're going to manage that as far as, being a good mom, which is incredibly important to me. and I wanted to have great kids. I wanted them to know that they were my priority. But what we did was we realized very quickly that that balance, there is no such thing as work-life balance. I think it's a bunch of bull, right? And I think we've been sold this bill of goods that you're supposed to figure out how to get there. What I've really done, and I spoke about it a little bit earlier, is I've just tried to prioritize, and I've just tried to do the best I could in the moments that I'm in them. And so I found myself surrounded by incredible people, incredible friends who took my children to doctor's appointments in school and would pick them up if they were, sick. I had a boss who was willing to give me time in the morning to go to fitness and make sure I could have an extreme workout every day. I had staff who were taking on my responsibilities that really were my responsibilities as head golf professional, so I could go play and practice. And so you don't do it alone. You can't. I had this incredible husband who knew my attention was not going to be full on him for the next 9 months. And it was just a gift that he understood that. He was in the same business as I was. And I'm so grateful for that too, because he understood. It wasn't a lack of wanting to be with him. It was just a lack of time. So I think in your world, you have to really sit down. What are the things that are the most important to you, whether it be fitness or cooking or your children or your partner or whatever it might be, or playing the game, which I think is incredibly important as PGA professionals or as golf professionals, that you continue to hone your skills and have a high level of play. How in the work week can you fit everything you need to fit in there, and what needs to give? And you'll find the things that need to give. And sometimes it may be things you really don't want to give up, but you realize that's not the first on your list for this particular time period. And understand that you'll get back to it, and your children will survive it. My children, I think they're proud of the fact that I work and that I love what I do and that I'm happy doing what I do. But they also know that I cherish them. And so don't be too hard on yourself. I was the mom that brought the brownies, that did not make them, that bought them and then put them in my own pan and put the frosting on. So, I mean, there's just things that you could figure out. You don't have to be like the amazing mom that gets everything perfect. I mean, if my kids went to school with the same shoes on, I was super happy. And we tell a story that my youngest would always go with her shoes on the wrong foot, until the kindergarten teacher called me and said, "Do you realize she comes every day with her shoes on the wrong foot?" I said, "As a matter of fact, no." "Is it a problem?" She said, No, we fix them when she gets there." I said, "Okay, great." I mean, it's just, you look back when you get to be my age. My children are now 23 and 26. And those are the best moments. Those are the best stories. Those are the best school pictures, because my children were always a mess. And other children just had their hair perfectly done and these wonderful outfits on. And I'd forgotten, of course, that it was school picture day. But we look back on it now, and it's really something that makes us happy. So just know it's okay. You're going to have a great family, and just put the time in when you can.
I just love your raw honesty, Suzy. Thank you so much for that. I think there's so many women out there who have to, on the outside, pretending everything's all perfect, and
No.
to hear that, but it's just not.
It's just not. I mean, it's not. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. It's fine.
Well, one of the things you mentioned there, that just a small thing you had going on while you were raising children, was obviously you were the first woman in 45 years. In 58 years, to actually qualify for the PGA Tour. What did you feel like when you found that, actually realized that you'd achieved that? What was that feeling like?
Yeah, I had won a section championship, which in the States is kind of our year-end championship for, I was in Connecticut for Connecticut. So it's a big event. It's our year-end event, biggest purse and most professionals competing. And I had a good summer. I had won the LPGA teaching and club professional national championship. And this was right on the heels of that. My mom had caddied for me in both and which was a treat. And we were doing well after we played 36 the first day, and we were in a good position. And the next day in the morning, one of the gentlemen that runs the tournament said to me, Suzy, what will you do if you win? Will you play in the PGA Tour event? And my mom and I laughed because, of course, we never imagined they would allow it. So that's not why I entered. I entered just to compete and to enjoy and to try to win a trophy, but not to play in a PGA Tour event. So off we went, and we didn't think another thing about it. And after the 18 that day, I was victorious and so great, and celebrating with my mom, and we'd signed the card, and we'd gotten a phone call at the time, and this is how long ago this was for people listening. There were no cell phones, and so we had to take this phone out of the golf shop. It had this long cord to the scoring tent, and I thought it was my husband phoning because he was supposed to arrive and he hadn't gotten there yet. And I thought, well, he's late and he's calling and to see how I did. And it wasn't my husband. It was a gentleman from the PGA Tour asking me if I was going to accept the exemption. And so that was the first that I really was taken aback. And I said, well, goodness, can I think about it? And he said, he paused and he said, well, okay. And that really was the end of the conversation. I got my trophy, I got my check. My mom and I went home, and I had kindergarten orientation that night. And I didn't want to be the bad mom. So I changed quickly. I ran off to the school, went to kindergarten orientation, came back home, and my husband and I celebrated and went to bed, and honestly thought that would be it. That would be the end of it. And the next morning, I mean, the world broke loose. I was hearing from all over the world. We had over 800 requests for interviews that day. I did over 3,000 interviews over the course of the next 9 months. Japan had called, and all over the world. And I was working. I was at my place of work, and my staff was like, what is going on? And my husband's calling me saying, are you getting all these phone calls? And we knew then it was a very big deal. It took me 3 months to decide to say yes. My daughter at the time made the decision for me. I was reading a story to her at night, and it was about being brave and courageous and taking opportunity when it came along. And she looked right at me and said, well, then why aren't you playing? And I said, well, I am playing. And I walked downstairs and I told my husband, I said, we're in. And so for me, that was the deciding point. I had 6 more months to wait to tee it up after that, after the initial 3 months. And as I mentioned before, I just worked incredibly hard and tirelessly to be as prepared as I possibly could to compete. I didn't have any, I knew I wasn't going there to try to win a PGA Tour event, but I was representing. It turned very quickly into representing women's golf. It turned very quickly into representing opportunity for women. It was the first time in years women had been on the covers of golf publications, and people were talking about women's golf. And I was so incredibly proud to be a part of that year, to participate, to play, as nerve-wracking as it was. As challenging as it was, it's something I hold dear because my daughters remember it. And really, I feel like because, they went through that with me, they know that they can do everything in their power to prepare and hold their head high no matter the outcome. I had a good outcome, but that was really my motto for them, and it has always been my motto for them. No matter, just prepare the best you can. But go in with your head held high because you've done everything you can, and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience, no matter the performance.
So true. And when you first said yes, did you have any idea of the impact that was going to have on women in sports moving forward?
I think I didn't have an impact on long term. I think I felt very clearly the impact short term, because I'm very grateful there wasn't social media, to be honest with you, at the time, because I was receiving just hordes of mail from people who agreed with me playing, people who didn't agree with me playing. And you can only imagine if social media had been a thing, would it have really let me play to the best of my ability if people were chiming in nonstop 24/7 on my decision. So thankful that that wasn't a part of my decision, as I feel social media today can be something that draws you into a very, very dark hole if you let it. And, you know, I always try to be very positive on social media because of that. Because when people are really taking a risk and stepping out of their comfort zone and doing something that no one else has done in a very, very long time, we should be applauding that. We should be celebrating that. We shouldn't be judging it. And, you know, for me, I knew there was that immediate impact because of what I was receiving in the mail. But I also knew the opportunity I had to change people's perception of women on a golf course. And that was worth every second of it.
So how do you think we go about changing the balance of males and females in golf at the moment? Because that's such a loaded question, because there's probably so many things we need to do. But where do you think is a good place to start at the moment to really change that gender balance?
I think we have to look at it from a business perspective. I think we have always taken on, and I say we very loosely, this should be me talking about me, not the world. But when I've talked about women's golf all through my career, because I'm so passionate about it, it's always been the invitation. It's always been making sure that you're bringing somebody with you. It's always been about the encouragement. It's always been about welcoming and a great experience for anybody, not just women who come to a facility, but for anybody. If they have a great experience, they're going to return. And as I've gone through my career and really continue to understand why isn't it growing even faster than it is, because we've made strides and I'm thrilled with the strides we've made, but why isn't it more? I think we have to start talking about this to the world in a business perspective. Women have 51% of the wealth, right, in the world. They have 58% of the university degrees. They are spending the same amount of money at a facility to play the game as a male is at that particular facility. And now, and same with, they buy clubs, they buy clothes, they eat food. You know, we are, you know, one and the same when it comes to that. However, we're not looked at that way in golf. It's looked at as more of, we're happy to have you here. Thank you for coming. We'd love to have your friends come. Please have them join us. But, you know, let's make sure that they're coming at a certain time. To me, that has to change. And when you're spending the same dollar at a facility, I tell women here, if you aren't having an experience that you feel is equitable, if you're feeling bullied, if you're feeling like this isn't a place for you, it probably isn't. And there's 75% of the golf courses in the United States are public. There's probably another facility right down the road that cannot wait to have your business and will welcome you from that perspective. So I think as a group and as women in the business, we need to start talking about this like a business. And we need to start making sure that we're offering women who come to our facilities, who come to our lesson tees, who come to our hospitality events, who come to our corporate events. We need to make sure we're respecting that in that process, that we're accommodating their work schedules, that we're considering what they're looking for in that experience, and that we're delivering it, and that we're delivering it in a way that they cannot wait to come back. And when we start to do that, we will see courses have to shift. We will see tee boxes that are appropriate. We will see accommodations within facilities that are appropriate, because the women will start to demand it. And we will see more females leading those facilities. But we need to do it together, and we need to do it from a revenue standpoint so that all women feel respected when they show up.
Yeah, completely agree. Previous to the job I do now, I used to be a director of golf, and at the time I was in the UK, I was one of two, I think, just to share. But I think it's come a long way since that time, yeah. But it's still got so much further to go, and I can't wait to see those changes happen. We talk about women in golf, and I think sometimes, you know, a lot of that starts from when we bring children into the game of golf, and obviously you've coached many juniors. Have you found that there's been a change in the balance between girls and boys coming through over the years, or is it stayed similar?
No, I'm thrilled to say it hasn't stayed similar. I can only speak for the States. I don't have the data for outside of the States, but we have programming here now in the United States that has really made a difference. PGA Junior League, which is our team golf model, boys and girls playing together from the same tee box as a team, hitting together, calling each other just partners, teammates, golfers. And what we found now since its inception is now those same boys and girls are becoming young men and young women. And they've grown accustomed to teeing off with a girl, or the girl has grown accustomed to teeing off with a boy. It's not even a second thought. And so as those groups of youngsters who are now playing the game, whether they're playing it at a high level collegiately, or whether they're not, whether they're just playing it for enjoyment, my hope and all our hopes as PGA professionals is that someday when they're in companies working and there's a golf course down the street and they have a break from a board meeting and they head off to the tee box and they join a threesome, that a young man would join with three women, and that a young lady would join with three men, and without even considering it to be something that was askew. And that's what we're seeing now in the States. Even at the facility where I work now, it's just boys and girls playing the game together. It's not about gender. And, I so hope that translates within the next 10 years to this completely different, not that we're not gaining on it, because we are, and I don't mean to sound like we aren't, because we are, but a much different culture of inclusion, whether it be from a cultural background, a gender background, a sexual orientation background, or religious, but whatever it might be. We just want everyone to enjoy the game and have access to it and be able to be a part of it, no matter who they tee it up with. And we are seeing that, which is exciting.
That's so encouraging to hear, and I've been waiting to hear that and see that for so many years. So I'm so grateful for you sharing. I can't thank you enough, Suzy, for everything that you've shared with us today. I think it's
You're welcome.
invaluable for people listening. I was just wondering if you've got one last piece of advice that you would like to give the listeners today about, really trailblazing through what has traditionally been a male-dominated industry, but from what you say is clearly changing. But what would be that last bit of advice you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think for anybody that's looking to be a leader, to be a part of making a difference, we have that opportunity every day in the golf profession. That's why I do what I do, because I have a chance to change somebody's life every day. And so whether it's really small, you don't have to be the president of the PGA of America to make dramatic change. And you make change right where you are, right in your community, because that's the most impactful. Local is so incredibly impactful, and you have the power to do that. I tell people all the time, being a leader is just empowering other people to succeed. And to do that, I have a little mantra of my own, which is something I live by. It's just be kind, be over-prepared, and just bring joy to your everyday. And when that happens, opportunities just explode for you. But please know, you can make a difference right where you are. You just have to start wanting to do it.
Thank you so much. And Suzy, I know how incredibly busy you are, so thank you for taking the time out. And hopefully we get to speak to you again soon. Thank you so much.
No, I so enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.